What's up there, fellow adventurers, and welcome back here to Gatlin Games. It is a brand new year, 2026, and I want to wish each and every one of you a very happy new year. As we move into the year and explore these digital worlds, it is very important that we game with purpose. And we do that by being fixed on the things of God throughout the year and throughout every day of our lives, throughout our gaming spaces and everything that we do online and throughout our daily walk. And so it's important that we remain focused with discernment as we play and fellowship with others through the gaming space. As we dive into 2026, I would like to take a moment to invite you to subscribe, click the bell, and like this video so you don't miss any future content throughout the year. We will also be building community through the Gatlin Alliance over on Discord, a place where gamers can gather for fellowship, encouragement, and sharing how God is at work in our lives through our gaming endeavors. So join us, connect with others, and be part of the community that plays with purpose and grows together in faith. I would like to kick this off by talking about the games that I brought up in the final video of last year. A couple of them was Palia and Where Winds Meet. However, those aren't my main focus here. I actually want to discuss the four main ones that we talked about, which was Ashes of Creation, World of Warcraft, Throne and Liberty, and Star Wars: The Old Republic. Now, Ashes of Creation came in number one because it's a new game. It's in development. It's been in development since 2016. It's in alpha phase. However, it's not as... On one side, it's like a main focus for me, but on the other side, it's not because it is so new. It's only an alpha. So one thing I've learned over the years is anything that's not fully released, you don't know what's going to happen with it, basically is what I'm saying. So it's on my radar as a primary game to keep an eye on, but it's not necessarily my primary focus, even though I may do a lot of content in regards to that game moving into this next year of 2026. I don't know yet. We'll see. That said, number two was World of Warcraft, and the reason that one's on my list as number two is because my wife can play it on her computer, and she cannot play Ashes of Creation. So that's one reason. Number two, my daughter seems to like it, and I'm able to play the game with my daughter, run with her, as I mentioned in that last video. And so it's got a lot of potential as well for family, fun, and faith within a guild community of the game. You know, we can grow together and fellowship and talk about Jesus. Not to mention the quests in the game. There are times where you can actually find gospel forward type messaging within the game context of different quests and different content, which is something that I may do moving forward in the future. The next one, number three, was Star Wars: The Old Republic. First of all, one of my friends loves Star Wars. It's one of his top games. Second, I like Star Wars quite a bit too, and I was looking at it. I played a little bit of it, as I said in the last video, and you know, it's a lot like WoW in many ways, and yet is different. So that's on my list as a possible MMO for this year. And then we have Throne and Liberty, a game that I've played in the past that I've enjoyed. I've enjoyed the content, and there's a lot of potential there to share Jesus through the quest chains as well, through a gospel first or gospel forward direction. As we turn our attention away from the MMORPGs, for the rest of this video, I would like to discuss single-player RPGs, co-op games, game development, and of course, some family projects that I'll be working on throughout the year, along with the quality of content here on the channel. And we'll start with the single-player RPGs. Now, I will always love playing single-player RPGs. There's just something about them with the story. When you jump into a game and you play it and you go through the story of the game, there's another level. You know, there's what you get on the surface level, and yet there's more to it. A good game, a good rounded game, has a good story arc. And one of the things that I love most is being able to find Christ within it. You know, to be able to treat that story like a parable and find the truth that's found in the Bible and compare what we find in the game with the scriptures and just be able to see that game from a biblical perspective. Now, I have 3 RPGs that I want to focus on in this video. There are several RPGs out there that I'm sure could draw my attention. However, for this particular video and for the direction that we're heading, I'm only going to focus on 3 RPGs right now. If more wind up coming up throughout the year, fine, but for right now, we're focusing on 3. The first one is Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. I've actually played the game twice. I've completed it. I have the content already recorded. The only thing I need to do is start making voiceover content and start making commentary for the gospel forward messages that I tend to attach to the game content that I create for series. So I would like to make a series based on the Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. The second game that I would like to dive into and play for the first time is the game that I purchased called Star Wars Jedi Survivor. I have no idea what to expect. I'm looking forward to that game. I'm not even sure what kind of series I would make around it, but I could see a series coming from that as well. And then a game that I've had access to, I've played it in the past, is called Horizon Zero Dawn. That's the third game that I would like to dive into as an RPG. I would actually like to record the content this time and complete the game for the first time. I've never completed it. I would like to complete the game and then do a series based on that game as well. Now, I would like to give a shout out to a friend of mine who plays a lot of co-op games. He started his channel a little over a year ago, known as 𝗦𝗽𝗃𝗍𝒂𝒡𝒍𝒂, and his channel has grown steadily over the course of the last year. And his content itself is quite unique. If you've never seen it, I would encourage you to go check out his channel, look it up, and subscribe, perhaps watch some of his content. But the content that he creates, I really like it because he comes together with his wife and his friend's wife, and they all play together. They all have fun. They all joke around and just, you know, sometimes they're a little silly, and they enjoy each other's fellowship. That's what truly strikes me as interesting with the content. So they all record it in their own perspective and then send it to him, and he puts together this collage of content for the viewers. And I think that's really unique, and that gives me an idea of the style of content that we could potentially create for this channel here at Gatlin Games. Could even collaborate with 𝗦𝗽𝗃𝗍𝒂𝒡𝒍𝒂 for some of this content, and you know, or others. And we could literally record content through co-op games. Most co-op games generally have, you know, up to 4 players, because that's a roundabout number that co-op games use. But sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more. But for the most part, it's four players. So the idea is for me to find 3 other players who would like to collaborate and play these games together and record from their end and put together a fellowship style gameplay that's unique, behind the scenes, and even open to talking about Christ and our faith and our walk with the Lord. And I think that would be a very unique style of gameplay that we could potentially steward at Gatlin Games. That being said, I currently own 5 co-op games. We could also do this same concept through MMORPGs with a small group. But generally, the idea would be to play these co-op games. And currently, I have 5 co-op games. 3 of them are on my list for something like this. One of them is called It Takes Two. That's only a 2-player co-op. Most likely one I would do with my wife and make video content based on my experience in the game with me and my wife. And then the other game, a second game that I have, is called Jump Space. This is actually a game that they cover on 𝗦𝗽𝗃𝗍𝒂𝒡𝒍𝒂 quite frequently, and I think that would be a fun game to get involved in. Another one is called Monster Hunter World, that is a co-op game, and I think that would be another one that would be pretty cool for a similar style content. Now, let's discuss intentional choices within gaming. When it comes to gaming, the choices I make are intentional. Not every game in my library is meant to become content for the channel, and not every game I play will wind up here. When I look at games, I'm considering the content, the context, and whether there's room within that experience to point back to Jesus Christ. The whole purpose of Gatlin Games has always been to share Jesus through the art of video games, and that standard matters when I decide what becomes content and what doesn't. Because Christ lives within me, I'm always looking for light in what I play. That doesn't mean every game is preaching the gospel outright. but it does mean I'm discerning whether there's something within the story, the themes, or the experience that can be used to reflect truth. And when there is, even obstacles can become opportunities to share the gospel. Like most gamers, I also keep a wish list of games I'm interested in. When I make purchases, timing matters. Sales and discounts help with wise stewardship, allowing me to stretch resources further, especially around the holidays. But the sale itself is never the reason for the purchase. The purpose always comes first. That said, some of the games I purchase are intended for future content, some may only be explored briefly, and some may never appear on the channel at all. That's okay. Each decision is made intentionally, with discernment, and with the goal of honoring Christ through everything I play. Over the years, I have spent quite a bit of time within game development. I started off with Unity, spent some time learning how to develop games within Unity before moving into Unreal Engine, where I spent most of my time over the last few years doing some different game development and different projects. And it was a lot of fun. I actually enjoyed it. Now, recently I moved over to 𝗬𝗽𝗽𝗆, which is an engine that was inspired by the game development company that built New World of Turnham. Unfortunately, that game has since begun to close down, but the same engine that built that game is the same type of engine that 𝗬𝗽𝗽𝗆 was built from. You could say it's 2.0 of that original engine. Even though that engine was not available to others to make, it was a private engine. 𝗬𝗽𝗽𝗆 is open source and free to use, which puts it on a different level whenever it comes to game development. And that's something that I truly look forward to getting more involved in here in 2026 as I begin getting back involved into game development projects. I think it would be interesting to do like a how to build an RPG series, maybe a series based on something like that, or maybe just some kind of series based on game development with 𝗬𝗽𝗽𝗆. I've considered getting back into Unreal Engine, but I'm not so sure on that one at this moment. However, I do have a strong interest in just developing a game. I want to create video games, and I want the video games that I create to be honorable and acceptable to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Now, how do you create a game that the world might be involved in? Well, I know how to create a game that Christians would be involved in. Literally just create a Bible story game. David versus Goliath, that kind of thing, right? But what about the world? How do we create a game that's going to interest the world, but in a way that can share the gospel, to share Jesus Christ with them? Well, I have to ask, what kind of games is the world involved in? From there, I can get my answer. I know by participating in worldly games, the kind of content that people are generally interested in. Now, what if we took that and created a RPG or an MMORPG that had biblical truth and principles in the stories that could lead people to Christ, but more along the lines of a, for example, Lord of the Rings or Chronicles of Narnia style video game, where it's clearly got Christian symbolism within it, but it's not completely obvious that it's Christian. So it's Christian, but it's not Christian, right? That's a hard one to really wrap your head around, you know, where you would have a game or anything really that is Christian based, but yet is not Christian based. That's not easy to come up with, but I believe it can be done. And if the Lord is willing, I believe that Gatlin Games could be a start for something like that. Like, we could put together a team and start developing these style of games that could be shared not only with Christians, but with the rest of the world that doesn't know Christ. And that's kind of the heart of it right there. Now, we hit a milestone last year when we paid off our house, and that was a very big step for our family. However, now we're moving into new projects here at home where we're going to add on to the home and have bigger bedrooms for our children and put a new roof on the house and different home remodels. So that's something else to look forward to. So when this starts to occur, I just want to make sure that you keep in mind and you're aware that I may not have as much time to sit down and actually create the content. I'm hoping to have some content already together that's already, say, scheduled ahead of time to be released during these seasonal events for these projects that I'll be working on around the house, around the homestead. However, during those seasons, I will not be able to create that content. Now, I may still come on the game and play with a few friends, maybe record, but I'm not going to be splicing content. Most likely, I won't be doing game development or anything else either. It'll probably just be record and play at the most, because the rest of the time, I'm going to be working on the house. Now, if possible, perhaps I'll have a small team of workers to help me with the projects around the house. If it's in our budget, I'll hire a couple of guys to come in and help me with some of these projects. Other than that, I'm going to be doing a lot of the work myself. You know, I have to dig a trench for the foundation on the new addition and remove some trees and some other projects that I'm going to be working on as we move in to this new year. So please keep that in mind as this year progresses and content is released. There will be moments where there will be less content possibly coming out because of those other projects. As I press forward throughout this year, one of the things that I've always emphasized is making the best quality content for my viewers. And that's one of the things I really need to focus on, is the fact that there will be background noise on my content from time to time because I have children. And that's been one of my biggest pet peeves, is trying to make the best quality content and removing any background noise. And that can be difficult. Right now, my oldest is 6 years old. She's off in school. The best time to record is when she's in school or in her room playing, where there's minimal noise around my microphone. Then my son is getting ready to turn 2. He's the noisiest. He will be 2 in just a couple of days on the 4th, and we're going to do a whole birthday thing, and it's going to be a lot of fun. However, when I'm recording, if he's awake, he's probably out here. He's playing with his Legos, his blocks. He drops something. There's a bang. There's a noise. You might hear him. He might holler. He might, and he's not speaking yet, but he will. And so, it's about his only words is no, mama, waiting for him to say dada. So he makes noise. He's young. He's just a little kid. And then our youngest is 5.5 months old. So eventually she will be running around and making noise. And then I'll have, until they're all off in school, it's going to be difficult to remove that background noise off my videos. Now, I can hide some of it with background music, but that can only go so far. So I'm just at the point where I'm going to expect there to be noise, because they don't always nap. My daughter, yes, my youngest daughter. My son doesn't always like to go down for a nap, and that's probably the best time to record, is when he's napping. But if he's not napping, then I have to make time to record when he's playing with his toys or something, when he's preoccupied. Otherwise, the content won't get done. And that's something that I have to figure out for myself as I press forward in 2026 to make quality content for each and every one of you who comes to watch these videos. With that said, that brings this content full circle, and I may even do content based on the remodel and the projects that'll be going on. But one thing I do know is that in everything that I do, and that what's done here at Gatlin Games and what's done here at my homestead and with my family and my children, is that throughout all of it, I want to be fixed on the things of God, to focus on the things of God. And that requires study in the Word of God. That requires daily reading in the Word of God. That requires giving Him praise and worship and just giving my all to the King. And that's really what I truly want to focus on most in this year of 2026, is to focus on the King of Kings, to give Him all the glory, to seek first His kingdom and His righteousness, and everything else will fall into the place that it's meant to fall when that season begins. Before we wrap up, I would like to invite you to subscribe, click the bell, and like this video. It truly helps support the channel and lets you stay connected as we move forward. You're also invited to join the Gatlin Alliance over on Discord, a place where gamers gather for fellowship, encouragement, and to share how God is at work in our lives through our gaming endeavors. And now I would like to take a moment and thank you for tuning in and watching today's video. Whether we're adventuring through games, building something new, or navigating life beyond the screen, my hope is that everything we do here helps us as we keep our hearts fixed on the things of God. And with that, I'll see you in the next grand adventure.